Hi, you guys. It's Yaz, and today I'm going to talk about why narcissists get away with everything. Somebody actually made this comment, and they said, narcissists always get away with everything. The truth of the matter is, they don't always get away with everything. But the reason they may have gotten as far as they did is because of these 10 reasons that I'm about to give you why the narcissist would get away with something. Number one reason why a narcissist would get away with whatever they do is because they're playing a game with you, only you don't realize that they're playing a game with you. The narcissist is all about mind games, okay? They're a trickster. So the narcissist knows they're playing a game, but you don't know they're playing a game. So if you knew that there was a game being played, you wouldn't believe everything they said. You thought you were dealing with a transparent person. You weren't dealing with a transparent person. You were dealing with a liar, a deceiver, in some cases a cheater, all right? So the reason the narcissist got away with what they knew, with everything, is because they played game on you, all right? They played game on you. One of the ways that they played game on you is to confuse you, is to gaslight you, is to make you forget what is truth and what's not truth. So you're going to question that because the narcissist is a master manipulator in the sense that they know how to give you a word salad. They're very good con artists. They know how to confuse you and gaslight you. That's why I tell you guys, you got to know gaslighting, and you will spot the narcissist hands down, hands down. All right. The other reason that narcissists get away with everything is they never put their eggs all in one basket. A narcissist never just bets on one number. What does that mean? Okay. That means that narcissists always have backup plans. They always keep their options. All right. Whereas you got fooled thinking you were dealing with a transparent person and that, it was just, they were all in when the narcissist was not all in. The narcissist either had one foot out the door, or they were still talking to exes, or they were talking to somebody, but they always had options. And what do options do? Options make a person independent. So the narcissist was independent in the sense that this is why they could leave you so cold. Because they're not leaving you and sitting alone on their couch at home crying over you. They have somebody else to fill in that void, that emptiness of losing you, all right? So that gives them, more options, give them, more independence. So whereas you are trying to make it work, you are being thirsty with the narcissist because you don't have those other options available because you're thinking you're in an exclusive relationship. This is why the narcissist would get over on you, okay? And this is why the narcissist also would devalue you. The minute the narcissist starts to devalue you is the minute that they have somebody they could jump to, all right? That they don't have to stay there. And some of them will actually make comments like, oh, I don't need to be here. I don't need to be here. That is a red flag. That's right. They don't need to be there because they do have somebody. And that's a red flag that narcissist is telling you in an indirect way. They don't need to be with you because they have somebody else they could jump to. All right. You've got to be able to read between the lines when you're dealing with narcissists or dealing with anybody in this world. All right. Because not everybody is going to come out and tell you how they think, how they feel. And especially a narcissist. Narcissists may tell you how they feel at the end of the relationship because they don't care or they're trying to hurt you. But generally, when they're trying to use you, they're not going to tell you the truth because, they want to hide that because if you knew how they truly felt, you wouldn't want to be bothered with them and you certainly wouldn't be giving them supply. All right. Now, keep in mind, narcissists don't always get away with everything. A lot of times, narcissists hit a wall because what's in the dark always comes into the light. And what I mean by that is narcissists, if they keep doing the same toxic behaviors, they may come across people that will expose them and expose them to others. So what happens in instances like that? They burn bridges and they lose people, they lose relationships. So they don't always get away with everything. The other thing too is they don't always get away with everything. They may be a thief. They don't always get away with things because they could get caught. All right. They're like a criminal that eventually, the longer you're in the game, the higher the probability you're going to get caught. And it's the same thing with the narcissist. All right. That's why when you walk in the truth, you never have to worry. You never have to look over your shoulder. But see, a narcissist, they don't walk in the truth. They walk in deception and darkness. And they do a lot of people dirty. And that's why they're very paranoid and they're always looking over their shoulder, because they're afraid that somebody that they did dirty in their past may come for them. And sometimes people do come for that narcissist. And sometimes that narcissist ends up in a bad place, okay? So don't always think that the narcissist ends up, living happily ever after, running off with a new supply and happily ever after, because a lot of them don't. All right. A lot of them don't. It appears that way because you're only seeing the surface of what's going on in their lives because they don't let you know. A narcissist is not going to want to let you know. Maybe they're fighting with the new supply, or, they have a lot of enemies. They're not going to tell you those things. All right. So, you've got to just understand that when somebody lives a toxic life, it's going to catch up to them. Okay. The other thing that you have to keep in mind is you were never educated on narcissism at the time when you were with the narcissist. If you were educated on narcissism and you knew the red flags, you knew what love bombing was, you knew what gaslighting was, you knew what triangulation was, you knew how a covert narcissist dismisses you. If you knew about the silent treatment and this is how they try to control you or, punish you. If you knew all these things, you guys, guarantee you would have spotted these narcissists a long time ago. But it wasn't until you got out of the relationship that you did your investigation and you learned all of these things that you said, wow, this was my ex. This is exactly how my ex was. All right. And unfortunately, a lot of people got hurt by the narcissist. You can't go back in your life. You could only move forward. And you don't want to reminisce about the past because you're not going that way. You're going forward because you're going to lose today by thinking about yesterday. All right. So it's one of the hardest things is letting go. This is one of the hardest things is letting go of the past. But unfortunately, in order to have a healthy future, you've got to let the past be in the past. And, if you got played, your revenge on that narcissist, or a lot of people feel like, wow, they got the best of me and everything like that. Your revenge is that you're never going to let that narcissist back in your life. They do come back. Most of them come back. Not all, but most of them come back. But you will keep that wall up and that door closed, and they will never have access to you again. And that's the best revenge you could do on a narcissist, is to never give them access to you again. All right. When they try to hoover you, no reply. All right. No reply. You cut them off like they don't even exist. All right. You got to understand something. You did the best you could with what you knew at the time, all right? You did the best, and you have to learn to forgive yourself for that, all right? You have to forgive yourself, because I'm sure if you knew what you knew now, you probably wouldn't have dealt with that narcissist at all. You would have kicked them to the curb, all right? But you didn't, all right? So why did the narcissist get away with everything? Because you didn't know the game that they were playing, all right? Or you're such an empathic type of person, you gave them the benefit of the doubt. And, you give somebody one chance. I mentioned this in my older podcast. This got copied. You give somebody one chance. If they don't, if they break your boundaries more than once, that's when there's got to be consequences where you say, not today, Satan. I have to step back from you. I have to not deal with this person because they're not taking me seriously. They're not respecting me. And I need to respect myself by, enforcing my boundaries and stepping back. And that's how you have to be, all right? You got to respect yourself. So narcissists get away with everything because a lot of people, they're trying to make it work so badly because of the good times they had with the narcissist. They're living off the good times they had with the narcissist that they let things go. You let things go because you're trying to get back that person that you had in the beginning. The only difference is that person didn't exist in the beginning. People are always nice in the beginning, and especially a narcissist, because they're trying to win you over, win your trust, earn you, get that supply. But that's not truly who they are. They're not this, warm, loving, kind person that you thought they were. Because if they were, they wouldn't have been so damn cruel at the end of the relationship. How you saw them at the end of the relationship is really who that person is, not at the beginning of the relationship when they had the mask on, all right? So narcissists may get over, and may get supply out of you, but, it's only because you gave them a chance. You either ignored the red flags or you didn't know about the red flags, all right? But eventually a narcissist will meet their match and, karma comes into play and they may actually get played by somebody else. And yes, narcissists do get played by other people. They do get played by other narcissists. So, how do I know? Because I've coached narcissists that are calling their partner the narcissist, and they got actually played by them, all right? So the thing is this, narcissists get away with certain things, but in the long scheme of life, the narcissist loses. And I'll tell you why. Because narcissists are all over the place. They don't build foundations. They ruin foundations because it's like when you start a project and you leave that project and you move on to another project and the project never gets completed. That's kind of like the narcissist. They start with you. They never fully, water the relationship and let it grow to its full potential. Instead, they leave halfway in thinking that something else is better, and they never get in a relationship that grows to its full potential. They're just jumping from relationship to relationship. They're just concerned with, certain, gratifications that they get, instant pleasure. Maybe they're looking for abundance of sex. Maybe they're looking for people to use for money. But the thing is, later on in life, they haven't built that foundation, all right? And this is why when they get older, they're very lonely unless they have money, all right? I always have to put that little disclaimer there because a narcissist with money is a whole other bird, all right? They generally can always get supply. Unfortunately, that's the case. But whatever supply they get later on is somebody who's also using them as well, all right? Who may not be there, who's somebody who genuinely loves them, all right? So don't always think that narcissists will get away with everything. They may have got away with something with you by getting what they wanted out of you, and then they may have discarded you and they moved on to someone else. But again, you have to forgive yourself because you didn't know what you were dealing with at the time. But now you know, and now you're never going to let that shit happen again, all right? So that's why they get away with what they get away with. Also, the other reason they get away with a lot is because of options. I can't say this enough, and people don't realize this. As long as there's a lot of options out there, your value will go down, okay? It's like the value of water is not valuable because you can get water anywhere, right? But when water becomes a scarcity, it becomes valuable, all right? Just like certain things like gold becomes valuable because it becomes a scarcity, or diamonds or something to that you know, when we're talking about, things that become rare and stuff like that, it becomes valuable. So if they have options, and narcissists don't attach to people, this is why they can get away with everything, because what you're offering, someone else could offer. All right. It's like when people say, it's like these dating coaches. All right. This is like the biggest joke of it. I got to bring this up because I see this all the time. It's like these dating coaches that say, oh, play hard to get, do this, do that, do this. Well, that only works if that person doesn't have a lot of options. Okay. But if you play all these games with somebody and they have other options, guess what? They're not going to deal with you. They're going to go to the other options. They're going to take the path of least resistance. So all these little tricks that you try to do by making a narcissist or somebody chase you, it's not going to work. I hate to tell you guys, it's not going to work as long as there's other people out there that will fulfill their needs. And there's a lot of people out there that have low boundaries. There's a lot of people that settle for situationships. And this is why the narcissist could get away with what they get away with. They don't have to put up with you and your boundaries. They can go somewhere else with someone who doesn't have boundaries. As long as there's a lot of supply, a lot of supply they will have. It's like when you have a good-looking guy and he knows he's a good-looking guy and he's a narcissist, a lot of women he could have. And if he could have a lot of women he will have. All right. And it's the same thing with a female. If she knows that she's a good looking female and she can get a lot of supply, then a lot of men she could have. All right. So, or partners or whatever. But the point I'm trying to make in all of this is why narcissists can get away with what they get away with. All right. This is why they can go and they can jump from supply to supply. This is why they could discard people and not care, because of all of these options. All right. So why do narcissists get away with everything? Because they number one, they know the game. All right. They're playing a game with you. They're gaslighting you. They're confusing you. You don't know you're being gaslit. So you're automatically falling into the spider web. All right. So, that's why I always talk about your brain has to be focused, all right? You have to listen when people speak. Talk less and listen more to what is coming out of somebody's mouth. And people, they tell on themselves. And if you're a sharp individual and you've been around and you have experience in dealing with people, you're going to spot a narcissist in a second, okay? You're going to spot a narcissist in a second. Now, the other reason they may get away with everything or get away with things is because they got you when you were vulnerable, all right? So you were lonely, and the narcissist came in, swooped in, came in as your hero, made you feel good. This is what the narcissist does. This is the manipulation. They make you feel good. You felt good in the beginning, and this is why you let things go, all right? Because of that good feeling, because you may have been vulnerable. You may have been somebody who was alone, and now the narcissist came in. You may have been somebody who was divorced and dealing with a lot of hardships with children, and you just wanted, you just wanted to be happy, and the narcissist came in and made you feel good. What's the underlying factor here? The narcissist made you feel good, right? So this is what happens. And that's why narcissists get away with everything, because they prey on vulnerable people that they can make feel good. And then when these people feel good, these people give up the supply, okay? And that's how they get what they get, all right? This is why they get away with things, because they know how to manipulate people's emotions. They also know how to deflect. They know how to blame shift and put the blame on you. They never take the accountability. They always want you to question who you are. They want to make you feel like you're wrong. So they're going to gaslight you. They're going to cause cognitive dissonance. You're not going to know what's right and what's wrong. You're going to be living in a state of confusion. And that, my friends, is your red flag, that state of confusion. And that's when you have to say, oh, not today, Satan. I'm not dealing with a transparent person. I'm dealing with a trickster that's trying to confuse me. That's why you've got to be focused, all right? There's certain things that you could pick up when somebody does, like, for instance, if they can't answer a question directly and they give you a word salad or they delay in answering you, automatically you know you're dealing with a liar. Okay. I mean, there's so many, I did a podcast, you guys, a while back, one of my earlier podcasts. I think it's one of the best podcasts out there. If you go to my YouTube channel, do a search, how to spot a liar. Okay. This was a bomb ass podcast where I really laid out all the ways you're going to spot that somebody is lying. All right. I did a lot of research on that, and I put that podcast out. And you listen to that, you're going to be able to spot these lying narcissists everywhere. But see, the problem is narcissists also choose people that they feel are naive, people that maybe are stupid, people that live in a love bubble, people that think that life is all, romanticizing about, riding on a horse, living in the Cinderella story, all right? Narcissists pick people that are in what I call a love bubble, that think, life is all about living in a fantasy world. And so the narcissist just pretty much builds up a fantasy in their head, and these people fall hook, line, and sinker, okay? They fall hook, line, and sinker because the narcissist, created this fantasy for you. But that's not real life, and that's not what the narcissist is about. So they're going to portray exactly what you want in order to fool you, all right? So they get away with these things because people are gullible, all right? You know how many gullible people there are in the world? Oh my gosh. Just go and read the news and read the comments, and you will see how many people are so blinded. It's not even funny, okay? It's not even funny. Most of the public really, they're in a fog, okay? They're in a fog and they don't even see what's really going on in the world, all right? But the point I'm trying to make is narcissists, they got their game. They know how to play their game. They choose their victims, and their victims are usually people who don't know about narcissism or don't know that they're being gaslit, don't know that they're being, confused and deceived and all of that. So this is why narcissists get away with everything. And also, narcissists also don't just center on you. They always, play the numbers, as we say. They, like I said before, they don't just put all they don't just put all their money on one number. They spread it across the board so that if they lose on one number, they'll win on another number. Okay, that's their options. Their other options. I'm giving you a gambling analogy. Okay, I'm trying to give you an analogy of really that's exactly what it is. So understand this. There's nothing you could do about it. You've got to let it go and just never let this person back in your life again. That's your way of respecting yourself, respecting your peace, and you can't change the past, all right? You either didn't know or you ignored the red flags, all right? It's one or the other. You didn't know or you ignored the red flags. So I hope that helps you to understand why narcissists, why they got away with what they got away with. But understand this, in the long game, the narcissist loses, and they do. And I've seen it. I actually had somebody comment on my YouTube, and he said, I'm 67 years old and I've never seen anybody reap what they sow. Well, here's what I have to say to that. I've seen tons of people reap what they sow. If you just go look in your history book at, these narcissistic leaders, and these, tyrants that they were, how they ended up, they definitely reaped what they sowed, okay? They committed, suicide and everything else. They reaped what they sowed. Pontius Pilate reaped what he sowed. Judas reaped what he sowed, okay? All these people that were evil in this world eventually will reap what they sow, all right? Hitler reaped what he sowed. He died in the end. All of these, the means doesn't justify what they did. They were horrible, but the bottom line is they got destroyed in the end, all right? They got destroyed in the end. So don't sit here and tell me that nobody doesn't reap what they sow, because I have seen it. I've seen it, all right? And I've seen it even in my own personal life with the people that I've dealt with. I've seen them get sick. I've seen people end up in car accidents. I've seen, because of their reckless behaviors and how they live, I've seen people end up getting, diseases and sexually transmitted diseases because of how they live. So yes, they do reap what they sow, okay? I don't know who you're around, but they do reap what they sow, all right? And if not in this life, in the next life, if you're a true believer, okay, and you're a spiritual person, you already know that, all right? So I hope that helps you. I'm on my preach this morning, you guys. I've been up all night and I'm tired, so sorry if I'm rambling on. I hope this helps you. If it does, hit the subscribe button, share the podcast. If you're looking for one-on-one phone coaching, check out the link in the bio at askyaz.wixsite.com/thegameexposed. If you're confused and you don't know if you're dealing with a narcissist, check out that link. Check out my YouTube. All my information is on YouTube at The Game Exposed podcast on YouTube. TikTok is The Game Exposed. Facebook is The Game EXP123, and Instagram is The Game EXP123. And have a great day.